Hello, everyone. I'm Corinne. Hi, Nest Flight attendees. Thanks so much for joining us for the Prepare for Career Opportunities workshop with Cabrillo College. Now I'm going to pass it over to our host from Cabrillo College, Matt Weiss, the internship and work experience director. Sorry, there's a little bit of instructor, sorry.
Yeah.
And Desha Staley-Rader, who is the career development director. Take it away, Desha and Matt.
Great. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here with you today. We are going to be talking about how to prepare for career opportunities. And Matt and I are going to just kind of bounce back and forth between what we have to say with that. I'm actually going to have Matt get started.
All right, cool. Well, great to meet everybody again. Yeah, I'm the instructor and pretty much coordinator for the internship and work experience program here. But we really work in concert to really address all things career development wise. So and we end up all wearing multiple hats there. So today, just the agenda, we have an hour and we really want to be right there, right at like 6:29, ready to wrap up. So we're going to try to move on through things pretty quickly, and then we want to leave space for questions and answers at the end. So we'll do an overview of the career development support and opportunities at Cabrillo. So what we do in terms of supporting students, exploring, we kind of break that down: explore, launch, explore, prepare, and launch. And we want to just, our folks that aren't Cabrillo related, I noticed there's folks from UCs and CSUs, like really kind of pay attention to that component and try to realize, or try to, in your mind, identify where that happens on your campus, because typically there are folks that do this kind of work at every college campus. So just be aware of that. And then we'll have a short overview from Desha, resume tips and tricks. So just some really key foundational information to get your resume up to date. We'll have a great student demonstration of the Career Coach Resume Builder, which takes the resume tips and tricks and even makes it even smoother. So it's a great tool that we want to introduce folks and let everyone know that they can access that. We'll list out some additional information, resources, links. We know you'll all be able to access these slides and these presentations later. So that way you have quick links. If you didn't get to write it down or save it, you will be able to access it again. And we kind of intend to bring 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. And that's really any questions from you all. So as we go through, we'll think about the chat box as a parking lot. So if you have a question at any point, fire it in that chat box, and Desha and I are going to monitor that as we go, try to cover it in our presentation. And if not, we will really try to get to it at the end. So if you have a question that pops up, it might even get answered, and that's okay. So just use that chat box effectively, and we will try to address as many of those questions as possible. All right. Next slide. Great. So just going right through our agenda, to start with the overview of career preparation services that we offer, that's kind of anything about, okay, and now I'm in higher education, now I'm at a college institution, I know I got to take the classes. I've met with my academic counselors. I have, a vision about what my education and my education plan is going to look like. It's going to be a lot of homework. It's going to be great. But there's also this kind of like maybe this, tingle in your brain asking yourself, like what does this translate to or transfer to, in terms of professional or career related success? And so our college, and really, like I said, pretty much many or most or all colleges really offer some scope of this kind of service and support. We really break it down into 3 buckets, though it could be thought of differently, but bucket 1 is that career exploration, and what does that mean? Like, how do we identify what our major is or our course of study? That's like starting to do the initial discovery about the different kinds of things you might be able to do with your degree or your certificate. And so that might be doing a lot of personal and career related assessments, utilizing the counseling services. We even have specific courses at the college that are really designed to give students tools to really effectively do that exploration, start to unpack the mystery about, what's next after higher education. We have the career readiness side. Even before you leave with a degree or a certificate, you might already start working either professionally or in an internship or volunteer position that starts to develop your skills and enable you to transfer those classroom experiences. So our career readiness is here for that. We have a list of different things we do. I'll expand on that in a bit. And then employment and internships, like increasingly, the colleges and universities around the country are really doing more and more direct support in helping students find jobs, and employers actually come to the colleges and are recruiting from the colleges. So we have some tools in areas where we can help students really find and land that first, second, professional experience. So next slide. So just a little deeper on the job and internship readiness and preparation. So this is, these are the kinds of things that are happening before you actually go out there and start looking on Indeed or, your local campus job board or wherever you might be searching, just helping you with really a menu of services that can get you there. And so we kind of break it down into just essential planning. So starting to frame out, like, that's really good to start to see, like, what are your values? What are your, your goals that you're aware of? And start to like really kind of put a frame of reference around your exploration process and your search process. Resumes, you'll get a little more deep dive taste of that, but we do just a ton of resume support. We try to help folks get from that blank page to that resume that make you feel really confident to go out and apply. Branding and networking. I know there's a lot of talk probably at Nestflight already about, just leveraging the community and the tools around that. And so we do that, kind of talking about networking, but in addition to exposing students to, tools like LinkedIn or other electronic strategies for networking and marketing yourself. And then job search planning and interview support. So we really all the way down the list of things so if you're very green, hopefully you can work with our service or a service similar to one at your college and really get those tools that really help you leverage your education and your other experiences as well. Next slide. Getting hired. So at Cabrillo College, we have our own job board. We call that the Seahawk Jobs. So we have employers that are constantly hiring. Some of those are just gigs, get you paid while you're in school, but a lot of them are related to the majors and degrees. We have a Monterey Bay internship portal that we partner with all the colleges in the Tri-County region in Monterey County. So that's a great resource to find. Those are employers that really are specifically looking for internships. Job fairs and hiring events. We have one coming up in April. So if you are interested, you'll be able to find the links for that. We actually host multiple of those throughout the year. And on-campus employment, so you can get a job on campus. And then we do have the ability for students to do internships and work experience for credit. I don't know if you can hear the youngins behind me, but that's my crew getting ready for dinner. All right, next slide. All right, I'm going to hand it off here to Desha.
All right, thanks, Matt. So we want to get a general sense of how many of you actually have a resume. So if you could just do the thumbs up, and I want to kind of peruse through and see who has a resume that they have been using. All right, I see a few more. Okay, so it looks like we've got a mix of folks here, which is always great. And that gives me a good sense of kind of where to go. But I find resumes could be a little stressful. I don't know if you all find them stressful, but this picture kind of magnifies that for me. It could also be used during our COVID madness that we're dealing with. So however you want to look at this today, but we've got this little fun guy working with us on our resumes. I think the biggest thing to take away the stress of a resume is really just being able to look at it as a formula, right? Once you kind of get what that formula is, and you have that basic template that you've made, it's going to be really easy for you to move forward and using that. And so what I want to do now is, Matt kind of talked about the different steps of what you need to do in general for this career prep. I want to get down a little more of the nitty gritty of the resume. I find this is the one area that students, they come to me, even those that have resumes, I'd say 95% of the time, we make quite a few changes, right? So they're feeling pretty good about it, but then when they come in and we look at it, we have to make some changes with that. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you haven't had someone that does this on a continual basis, and it's just your friends maybe, I encourage you to meet with your career services folks on your campus. All right, so the purpose of a resume is this is obviously a summary of your skills and abilities and your accomplishments. It's a snapshot and hopefully a chance that you're going to get that interview. And on average, employers only look at resumes for about 30 seconds. So if you don't have it really organized, concise, and easy for them to find the information they're looking for, then you may not even get passed on to the hiring manager to come in for an interview, right? So really, really key to do that. And the number one thing that I would say you need to do if you walk away with anything today regarding resumes is this, is always connect the qualifications that you have to the job description that they have advertised. I have just done, we have an internship process we're doing right now. We're trying to match some students. And I've had about 8 students submit resumes, and all but one did not gear it towards the job specifically, right? With the skills that they needed. So that is going to be the number one thing. An employer can spot a mile away, whether it's an internship or job, if you're just passing out a resume, the same one to everybody, right? So make sure those skills are very focused on what they're asking for. So the essential pieces that you have to have on your resume are your name, address, contact info, obviously your education, your work experience, and your skills. The times that you would talk about your courses that you've taken are really more in terms if you're going to go for an internship, not so much after you've completed your degree. And when you do that, you're only going to list maybe 4 to 6 classes that are related to your major, right? So it wouldn't be your gen eds that you're going to focus on. It would be the ones that are related to what you're studying. Now, there's 2 main formats that you've probably seen out there. The one that's the most common and the most popular is what we call chronological. This is a resume that talks about your work experience over time. It's really focused on what you've done within each of those jobs, directly under the jobs that you've done. This is a great one for people that have a lot of work experience. They'll use this. And also if you have a lot of work experience in a particular field, right? So those are the folks that tend to use this. Now, the functional one is based on your skills, and it focuses on the skills that you've developed in everything you've done. So it could be classes, internships, paid work experience, volunteer work, leadership you've done. And what a functional resume does is you're breaking up your skills into categories, and the categories will be related to that job you're going for. Okay, this is a great resume for people that don't have a lot of work experience. Maybe it's a lot more volunteer and leadership. And so this could be a great tool for them to use. It's also good for people that are transitioning from one career to another, right? So we get a lot of students that have been doing something for 10 or 15 years and are coming back to school too, right? So that's a good option for them as well. You can also do a hybrid of these. So you'll see options of those. And I'm going to show you two examples in just a minute. Some other things to be mindful of: the font size that you use should be between a 10 and a 12. And then I've listed different fonts there. Those are ones that are usually really good to use for this. They're easy to scan. And these are little tricks, you know, the font size and the font itself are little tricks that you'll use depending on the size, on what you need to fit on that page, right? Some people don't have a lot to fill a page, so they're going to use the 12-point font. Others have a lot and maybe they're going to go smaller. Okay, so just keep that in mind as well. And then I want people to be aware of this. There is something called an ATS, an applicant tracking system. And this is, some of the larger companies use this. And what happens is your resume gets scanned into their system, and before a live body even sees it, it goes through and they're looking to match, you know, a certain percentage of the words on the job description to your resume. So maybe it's like 75% they're looking for. So if you don't match that, how we talked about earlier, and those words are not in the resume itself, you don't even make it onto a person, right? You don't even make it to the next step in that process. So you really want to be aware of that. And then the other feedback I've heard from employers is it's best to use a chronological resume if they have that kind of system. Sometimes when you get fancy with your formatting and have different columns, it doesn't read it well. So you want to be paying attention to that. And then the other thing, especially for students that are, you know, new coming out into the field, really your resume should be about 1 page. Occasionally it can be more than that. And obviously as you go along in your career, it will be. But where most students are at this point, you can fit everything on 1 page. Again, feel free to put some questions in the chat if you have any at all. And Matt will let me know if those come in. All right, so I want to show you a couple of examples here. So we have them side by side. We've got the chronological and the functional. So let's start with the chronological. We talked about, this is where you're focused on the work experience and the bullet points underneath it, right? So we've got at the top summary of qualifications. So just a general summary. We have education. We have our work experience, and we talked about what we've done underneath each of those jobs. And then this student had leadership experience that they wanted to showcase. They had some really high level positions, and they actually wanted to treat that leadership experience as a job, and you can see how they described it. So that's an optional piece for you. If you are someone that has been in clubs, but maybe not a VP level, just a member, you still want to include those on your resume, but maybe you're not going to have the bullet points there, but it always looks good. So those are just little, variations for each individual. Maybe someone doesn't have any leadership experience and they want to have more bullet points underneath the work. So those are options as well. And then let's move over to the functional one. So again, this one focuses on skills that they have in everything that they've done. And so you look at this person and you think, wow, they have a lot of experience. But when you scroll down to the bottom, you see they only have had volunteer experience and just 2 of them, right? So they've listed those at the bottom. And then this person was going for an office type position. So the skills that they wanted to focus on were communication, leadership, cultural competency, and administrative. And so they broke it down. And those will vary, right? Depending on the job you're going for. Maybe you only have 3 skill categories. So you can really mix it up with that. One other option, I don't have it here, but just to talk about, is there's a hybrid of these 2. And I think that can be pretty useful when you're going for maybe an internship, right? So, and especially I think of the STEM field, right? Maybe they're asking for computer skills, and then you need to talk about some other skills. So you might have maybe lab skills in there, right? So 2 different skill areas. You're going to talk about your work experience as well, and you're probably going to list your courses if it's for an internship. So that's another way of looking at those as well. All right, so now what I want to do is I'm going to break them down into the different areas to talk a little more in depth about these. So under education, this is where you talk about degrees, certificates, and we talked about the coursework. And this is an example of someone that started at Cabrillo. And so we have that listed below, and then they finished up at University of Oregon. You can interchange the degree in the school so that the school could have been on top. So that's not a big deal. The one thing to note is the dates. So for the bottom one, it has a range of dates, 2011 to 2013. When you have a range of dates, that means as an employer, when I read that, I don't think that you actually graduated with that degree. You were still there and you probably completed all the courses, right, for that needed to get you to transfer, but you did not graduate with that. When you see the top one and it says 2016, that means you completed your degree. So those are important things to keep in mind. A lot of times students will keep the range even knowing they've completed it, and you want to let them know that. The other piece is if you're currently there, let's say they were still at University of Oregon, they could say 2016-present. And that's another way of doing that. All right, so this is a very common thing that people have on their resumes, and you will still see a lot of samples out there that have this. It's an objective statement, and I'll give you an example of what it is. I would like a front office administrative assistant position in a fast-paced office, right? So basically you're talking about what you want, what kind of job you want. And what I'd encourage you to do is move away from using those type of statements. And if you decide to do anything at all, and I don't think you have to do this right now with where you're at, is you could do a professional profile, right? Or a summary. There's a lot of different names for it out there. And I have 2 different examples here. So the top one is a pretty straightforward one. Administrative assistant with 3 years of experience in managing a front office and fast-paced environment. So this position that they were going for was, they needed 3 years minimum experience. So they have that. And it happened to be a fast-paced office. So right away, as an employer reading this is at the very top of the resume. That makes me excited because I know they're meeting 2 of the things that I wanted, right? They've got that minimum qualification of 3 years and they've worked in a busy environment. So I want to keep reading their resume. So you can see how that works. Same with the one below. This one has a little more information. This was a community organizer position. They needed them to be bilingual And then you can see some of the specialized skills, social media, community mapping, proposal writing, and fundraising. Those were all things in the job description that they wanted to make sure they highlighted and had it included in there. So again, employer reads that, they want to keep reading the rest of the resume. Matt, do we have any questions coming in? It looked like we might have.
No, we haven't had any questions yet. So
okay, great. All right, so the skills category. So we talked about there's kind of two different ways you can do this, but the big thing is making it pertinent to the job that you're applying for. You can list them in one category like I have here on the right, or you've got them in those various categories like we did for the functional resume. And then the other thing that this is definitely something that I prefer, and it depends on your major and how you do this, but I prefer that people use action-oriented words when they're describing their skills. Now, you'll see some people that will just say leadership, customer service, it's just one or two words. I don't find those to be as effective. I like to have a little more depth to them. So these are some examples that we have on the side over here, and I'll go over them in just a minute. I also want to encourage you to use any of your volunteer, your leadership, and internship experience when you're compiling this list. I find students, especially if they did an internship for credit, for some reason they feel like they can't include those on their resume and treat it as a job and the skills they've developed. And I think that's one of the number one places you should be doing that with. So keep that in mind as well. So when we look at this one, this was an example of our chronological resume and our summary of qualifications. This job was an office job that they were going for, so they needed to have computer skills. So you can see that they articulated those. They wanted them to be bilingual in English and Spanish, so we have that. They wanted customer service experience. They've talked about that. And they talked about leadership skills. This person had done leadership in a variety of different organizations. So they included that. And you can see these words they use demonstrated here, right? So that's an action-oriented word. All right, so I want to talk about the functional resume and just show, I know it's hard to see on those samples, so I'm breaking it down for you. The functional resume, remember, it's focused on your skills. So we're not really looking, we care that you have work experience, but we're not as focused on what the jobs were specifically, right? So with this, you just list your title, the company, the location, not the full address, and the dates that you worked there. And also note that you should not put a full address on here. I find that sometimes people are putting full addresses of the companies on their resume as well as their reference, or a supervisor. And those really should go on your reference sheet, which is a separate piece altogether. It should not go on your resume. All right, so the chronological resume, this is an example of that. And so the first one, you can see we have the title, we have the dates they worked there, the location, the name of the company. And now we're describing what they've done within that role. So, and they're using the action words that I've talked about. So developed, created, supervised, managed. You can see we're trying to articulate what they've done. And none of these are really short, right? So it's not that they said, developed volunteer recruiting strategy and left it at that. They gave us a little more information, which I think is important. Anytime you can do that, that's great. You don't want to make them too short and you don't want to make them too long. So I think these are a nice combination here. The other way to think about these descriptives is accomplishment statements. And I think when you're first starting out in your career, this is a little more challenging to do, but I want you to be thinking about it because it's going to happen for you sooner or later, right? That you're going to be able to do this.
Hey, Desha.
So, oh yeah. Is there a question?
Just since you're to kind of accentuate this point, there's a really good question that I think is relevant to this place. Is first from Sharon. I don't have much experience. Can I list my course projects as my experience?
That is a great question. Absolutely. And I would have a section that would be called projects, right? So you could have, maybe you had volunteer experience and then you had projects listed. I think that's great. And with that, maybe you do include your courses, right? So that would make sense, but absolutely. And you want to be able to articulate what you did within that project. So maybe what you developed and what kind of responsibilities you had. That's a great question. I'm getting kind of dark here, so I'm going to try and turn on my light and see if that helps a little bit. Is that better? Okay. Great. Anything else in there, Matt?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay, great. All right, so let's look at these accomplishment statements that I wrote below. You could easily just put recruited volunteers and maintain records and communications. That by itself is fine. You know, you're articulating what you've done. But the fact that it was 5,000 organization contacts now puts you into a different level, right? A higher category. If you're up against other folks and they don't have that volume, and this is the company that has around that number of contacts they manage, then you're gonna be at an advantage with that, right? So you're gonna go to the top of the pile for that employer. Same for the bottom one. We have scheduled and supervised all activity on Habitat volunteer sites. That by itself would be great, right? And if you only had 20 contacts or 20 people you oversaw, you're not going to put that on there. But the fact that it was 600 really makes a difference. So it's those little things that can really boost you up and bring you to the next level for that manager.
Joshua, we have another question I thought would be helpful to include here. This is from Indea. When adding experiences on LinkedIn, should the descriptions be different or shorter than those in the resume?
Yeah, that's a good question. I hear different things on this one. So I've heard in general, you don't want to take your exact resume and plug it all in there. Although I think a lot of people do that and you would be okay doing that. What I've been hearing lately is people have been doing a little bit more of a summary of what they've done within that role. The one thing you want to be thinking about with that though is when, if a recruiter is going in looking for folks, they have keywords that they're looking for. So it's really important that you have those in those descriptions. However, whichever option you decide to do, think about the jobs you're going to be applying for or you're interested in. Look at people's profiles that are already doing that and see what those keywords are. That'll really help you out when you're starting to search for stuff. Okay, so hopefully it helps you out. I think it can go both directions, right? You can do it exactly what comes in from your resume, or you can do a summary. I've seen both. Good question.
Thank you.
All right, if I need to expand too, please let me know on more of that. All right, so career coach, I want to talk about this tool. And I know we're moving into kind of the demo of this. So if there's any other resume questions you want me to address right now, I'd love to be able to do that before I dive into career coach and our video. Anything else?
I do have one question if no one else does.
Sure, go ahead.
Kind of similar to the profile for the resume. Would you use that same similar one for a profile on LinkedIn as well?
Oh, for the profile you put, it could be very similar, yeah. And you know, I don't know if you have a LinkedIn profile already, but many times it'll get one started for you. So I know when I went in, it actually started to create one for me and then I could tweak it from there. Have you found that or do you have one already?
I have one already, but it wasn't generated for me.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think it's again, think about what you're going for, what your goals are, and try and merge them with what skills you have if you can. Sometimes it's hard to do that, right? Sometimes you don't have that experience just yet. But I think you can try and pull things out when you look at other people's profiles. That's a great question.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to just let you know about this tool that we have. It's called Career Coach. And the great thing is this software application anyone can use. You do not have to be a Cabrillo student to use it. And I think some of the benefits with this are, first of all, it's free. Second, it's going to help you put a resume together, which is great. And it's going to make it less stressful. So I want you to be thinking about those things as you watch this video in just a minute. This tool also does other things. Not only does it have a resume builder, it also has a career exploration. I can't talk right now. It's late. And it also helps with employment search, right? So there's a lot of different pieces that you can do. And it's really easy to set up an account. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hope that this works as planned. I want you to, Matt, let me know if for some reason the sound doesn't go, but we're going to do a video. One of our students that has used this tool and loved it, put this together for us. So we're going to have you watch this video. And it's about 9-10 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Othello Washington.
Can you hear it, Matt?
I am a civil engineering major
Yes.
here at Cabrillo College, and I chose civil engineering because
Oh, Desha, when you muted, your audio stopped working.
I hope to be able to work in water
It's working now?
resources in order to
Yeah,
prevent
you have
Yeah.
to stay unmuted.
Okay.
and prevent
Thank you.
water-related catastrophes, such as what happened in Flint. Currently, I work as a Guided Pathways Student Ambassador for Cabrillo College and was influenced to this job to attend a college resume workshop. This workshop showed
Can you
me
turn it up, Desha?
resume builder, which I would like to share with you, as it has helped me get a head start when applying for opportunities, such as internships. Now, with introductions out of the way,
Sorry, I
hello,
want to stop
everyone.
it for a sec.
My name is
Oh.
Othello Washington. I am a civil.
Hang on. Is it too soft, Matt?
It was just a little too quiet. I think people probably could hear it still, but
Let me see. Hang on. Sorry, 1 second, everybody.
Engineering major
Is that
here
better?
at Cabrillo College,
Yes.
and I chose civil engineering because I know it will allow me to help a wide range of people, and plus it allows me to work on massive and interesting projects. With this major, I hope to be able to work in water resources in order to provide clean water to people and prevent water-related catastrophes, such as what happened in Flint. Currently, I work as a Guided Pathways Student Ambassador for Cabrillo College and was influenced to this job to attend a college resume workshop. This workshop showed me Career Coach's Resume Builder, which I would like to share with you, as it has helped me get a head start when applying for opportunities, such as internships. Now, with introductions out of the way, let us take a look at the Resume Builder. So first, what you'll notice on the Resume Builder is that you'll have a list of resumes to choose from. And there are two options. One of the options is where you can upload your resumes with an upper limit of 6. The other one is where you can create resumes, and you can actually go ahead and go create multiple if it is necessary. Below that is the title, and the title will show up on your resume, but not as the title for the resume. It will show up as your file title. So this you can name whatever you want, so that you can find your file and you can help your employers find your file as well. So I'm going to name it Demonstration Resume in this case. Following that, we have the contact information. Now, this part of the resume is most oftentimes the most difficult for me and other people. The reason being is because it's kind of difficult to figure out how to format this information in a proper way. But as you'll see later on, this program actually does it for you. So all you will have to do is answer the prompts it gives. So see, it asks for your name, your email, your address, city, state, postal code, and phone number. So if I were to input sort of my address, the city that I live in, state, and postal code, and my phone number, it will take care of that information for me, so I don't have to worry about anything. So after this, save and close, and then you have the opportunity to go take a look at your contact information and make sure it's all good. The next part is extremely important. This is the work experience, and this is one of the most difficult parts for the resume for me, other than the contact information, being the reason that it's so difficult to start. But in this case, what happens is that on this section, it will prompt you to add your work experience, but also at the same time prompt you to remember your jobs and then put those jobs in this bar right here. So if you just type in what you have worked recently, say I worked as a cashier, it says what I worked as right there. So I don't have to go ahead and go like manually type this in. It shows me what they do and if it applies to me. So let's go ahead and go click that. So as you can see, I just hit that I was a cashier and a whole bunch of things showed up on the right side of the screen. These are your work tasks, your job tasks that you did. And this is incredible. This is my favorite part of the whole program. And the reason being is because it's so hard to come up with good language for these things. Then get to the point and tell somebody, hey, I did this, and these are the skills I learned. But as you can see right here, it's already filled out for you with the proper language that will help you to sort of formulate your resume further. So right here, here are a few options: receive payments, answer customer questions, and as you can see, all the sentences are pretty loaded and pretty well written. But if you do not like any of these sentences that are given, you can also write your own, write a custom task. So let's go ahead and go click on the few: receive payments by check, help customers find patients, supervise others, greet customers. And as you can see, it shows up on the bottom. And the same will happen when you add new tasks, right? Except you put right here. Next, you want to put your employer. So let's put something like Taco Bell, city, state, Capitola, California, and then your start dates and end dates. So let's say January 21st to February 21st. I did not work there for you. And then you can add another job if you so choose. And let's choose an obscure job. Say you were working on the field and you couldn't find you being like a door-to-door salesman. Well, you can write just part of the phrase and see it shows up. And granted, sometimes these stuff won't show up right away, but you can always search and always go back and edit these work tasks and these work experiences. So remember that. But it does give a comprehensive list of the work experience that may be there. So just try different avenues if you can. So let's go ahead and go say, okay, prospect lines, merchandise, road record, and then anywhere, and anywhere. So we're all good to go. So close. And then same as before, you can just go review and make sure that everything's correct. Next is education history. And I had a lot of questions about what to fill out in this form in the beginning, but they make it so straightforward. They show that you need to put your degree, so bachelor's, associates, whatever you're working towards, associates, major, say I'm working in civil engineering, your current GPA, because this is quite important to employers when they're looking at if you're still in school, say Aptos, California, and the school you go to, Cabrillo College. And no need to worry about formatting. All you need to do is put this information. It's much like the first thing that we talked about. Let's say I started in like August, February. Okay. So there we go. And just make sure to check that everything's good once again. Skills, the skills section is actually very interesting. The first thing you'll notice is that it prompts you to enter in your own skills. So this section, they're expecting you to know a little bit about yourself and what you are doing currently. But at the same time, if you don't know necessarily the skills that you've done and need a little boost to help you, you can actually select your desired job that you're looking for. So say civil engineering, or the skills you've developed previously in other jobs. And then you can put these in. So say I want to be a civil engineer. I need to know AutoCAD, need to know surveying, I need to know time management. And as you can see, there are multiple options. If I were to write my own skills, then they say, okay, time management training, time constraints, normal time management, and they give you options based on what you write in there, which is very neat and very helpful. Furthermore, they give you the opportunity to add links to projects that you've worked on, which I believe is very important if you want to go the extra step. So yeah, so now that we have all that information and the skills, and we've seen that it's very comprehensive, we can go ahead and go download it. So when we open it up, the first thing you'll notice is that the first section is formatted very, very nicely. As you can see, there's a lot of room for improvement, a lot of room for growth. And granted, the stuff you put in might not be what you want exactly, but you can always edit it and change it later. And it's just a placeholder. And so this is very important for me because previously I was like this. I was stuck on a blank doc and had no idea how to get started on my resume. Had no idea what the inputs were supposed to be, had no idea what skills were necessary, had no idea how to sort of bring it all together. Once I used this program, I was able to go from this to over here to this. And this is a beautiful resume. This is probably one of my favorite ones that I've written. As you can see, I put in some work experience and I tweaked a few things around a little bit to make it more comprehensive and added a few things. But as you can see, the general structure is still there. And that structure came from the resume builder. So I would highly encourage you guys to use it, as it was very beneficial for me to see what I need to put on my resume, and I hope it will be beneficial for you as well. Hello, everyone. My name is Othello.
Sorry, we're jumping on. All right, so that is our lovely career coach. It looked like there might have been some questions in there. Matt, do you see something that's come in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have 2 questions. Let's see. The one of them is really specific to the resume, so I thought let's shoot with that one first, even though it didn't come first. Do you have to specify an associate's degree as an AST, or can you just call it an AS if you did in fact transfer? So I think clarity in that, like say you attended Cabrillo or Hartnell and you were a civil engineering major, and then you carried that over into your new school. How do you really communicate that so that there's clear that there's continuity?
Well, I think I'm understanding that correctly. I don't think it matters if you put the AST. I mean, you can if you want. The big thing is that they see that where your path was, right? You always would want to include the community college. I find some people decide not to, and they just put where they ended up with their 4-year degree. But I think it's really nice to have both of those in there. So I think you could go either way with including the transfer piece or just the AS.
Mm-hmm. Great. And the other question, that one was from Miranda. Thank you, Miranda, is from Sharon. And she was just asking about getting into LinkedIn. So I thought maybe we would save that one for the QA session, so we could go through the rest of our resources, and then we'll get to that question as well. So at this point, we're going to carry on just to cut some information and resources. So folks, keep firing your questions away, and we'll keep track of them. We'll address them. So sorry, I'll hand it back to you, Desha.
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, Career Coach is a great tool. I encourage you to use that because it's, as he said, Othello was so excited after the workshop when we showed him that tool. He wanted to tell all his friends about it. So then he did this for us, which was great. Really appreciate that. So I want to let you all know this is a career fair. We're actually having 4 career fairs in April that are open to everybody. So we're partnering with Hartnell and MPC. We're the main host, but they are supporting our event. And last I looked, we have 32 employers that are coming in between these 4 different events, and I know it's growing. We don't have the full list on our website yet, so you can kind of see who will be there, but it will be showing up soon on our site. But I want you to all know it's a great opportunity, even if you're not necessarily looking for a job or internship right this moment. I think this is a really great opportunity to come and check out how a virtual career fair is. How does it work, right? What do we do? We do have some other workshops, and I didn't list them here, but if you are wanting just some helpful tips on working through a virtual career fair, we have a workshop. It's going to be a resume combo of what we've talked about tonight with also how to manage a virtual event. But I think it's a great networking opportunity, right? Just to learn about what things are out there, what might you be interested in that you hadn't thought about. So I encourage you to check that out. And all of the registration, it's individual for each event. It's done through Eventbrite. And I think you'll all have access to this afterwards and should be able to register having this PowerPoint. Corinne, is that correct? They'll have the recording and the PowerPoint access?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, and then other resources, we have the Explore. So we broke them up into our 3 categories that we started with. And we obviously have the career coach we wanted to list there. So you could use that for exploration or in creating your resume, as we just did. And then we want to talk about the fact that we offer these free and self-paced week-long classes. I'm actually going to have Matt talk a little bit more about that, if you don't mind. He's actually teaching these classes.
Okay, great. Sorry, I was typing in a message there. So you're handing over to me to discussing the classes?
Yeah, our non-credit
Oh,
class.
they're there. Okay, sorry, didn't see them at first. Yeah, so in the preparation section, that menu that I shared with at the beginning, that where we start with the kind of the career planning and advising, and it carries you in a linear way all the way through to preparing for a job interview. We offer that in a non-credit course. We actually offer it in 2 non-credit courses. They're a series. So series course number 1, that course really just starts with that blank page and maybe zero awareness about what a resume is, and culminates through 8 hours of instruction that you do, primarily self-paced and online. But you also do one-on-one instruction and review with me or whoever else may be instructing that course. And that gets you to the point where you should be like 100% about your resume, or very, very close to that. So that's the first course. And then the second course really builds on from that. Like, so building your professional identity and brand, utilizing LinkedIn, professional networks, additional sources like GitHub come up, or Instagram, using those in a professional context. So we talk about branding and networking, and then job search. We do with like plan and execution, and then interview preparation. So that second level course is designed to really kind of hopefully guide you into the position where you're really ready to be sitting in a job interview and really prepared to get something that's in your area of interest. So those 2 courses, if you follow the link, it'll link you how to enroll. If you are a Cabrillo student or you're not a Cabrillo student, that's open to you. They are free. They're self-paced. They're not for credit, so they don't impact your GPA. I think this semester we have about 30 students so far already signed up for a variety of these courses. Actually, the numbers are a little bit higher than that. And they're working at their own pace. And so it's come as you are, and it really is kind of a low stress environment, which is nice. But those are available to everybody. So what we're really doing is formalizing a lot of those services and putting a lot more meat on the bones for those. So great. Do you want me to carry on, or you want to do the
yeah, I was just going to jump onto the Indeed.com. I wanted to make sure, a lot of people don't realize that Indeed has a whole career guide for folks. So we have a link for that, and it's great. They have sample cover letters and sample resumes of all different sectors and industries. So I really, it's a great place for you to check that out. And then Matt, do you want to touch on the LinkedIn a little bit?
Yeah, that was the key question that we had in the chat box that came up. I want to just take one quick step back about resumes and utilizing like Indeed or any software where they ask you to upload your resume so that it's in your portfolio. And when you do that, you might have formatted your resume in a certain way. So when you upload it, the software of that particular platform might rearrange or edit or create some kind of, there could be some technical complications. So I always just throw in that, when we're talking about Indeed and platforms like that, to just have awareness to, you've uploaded your resume, don't assume that it's going to look exactly the same on that platform when it gets there. And that's just technology being technology. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And then let's talk about LinkedIn just pretty briefly, because we don't have a ton of time, and we can get into more of that in the future. Maybe there's already been some stuff covered at Nestflight about that, so I don't want to be too redundant. But that came in from a form of a question as well. Is LinkedIn really important? And then to expand on it, like, what is that? So LinkedIn is a platform that probably most folks have heard of or familiar with, and probably folks in this room have a various level of experience utilizing it, all the way from like, I've never touched it, all the way to I have a great profile. It's free, and I say free in quotes because really, like, there is a contract you're making in terms of the companies using your information and data that they collect. So, you have to have that awareness as you're using that software. But there's no charge out of pocket expense for students or anybody to sign on and use it. LinkedIn does have some premium features, which I won't get into because I don't really know the specifics, but you can actually see if they will like eventually try to upsell you. But LinkedIn in essentially is a great like social networking, algorithm and model that applies to professional networking. So much like in the way that Facebook helps connect you with friends or people you went to school with, people you work with, LinkedIn really can do the same thing. And your profile looks like a really visual, very digital resume. You will have opportunity to put on some headshots or professional images. You can also link portfolios and any content you have. It also has a very nice, handy kind of plug and play resume or online resume builder, so that you can put in the kind of work you did and highlight the jobs you've done and put in the specific details. Same for your education. And so really LinkedIn, just like any social network, if I worked for LinkedIn, I'd probably tell you, go on every day, click on everything, because that's what triggers the algorithm to get to know you better, which then pushes networks in your direction and whatnot. So LinkedIn, it is kind of you get out what you put into it in terms of engagement, but that platform really is designed to start connecting you with places you may have never heard of before, but it's based on your interests or your skills, your experience, your location, and all those other factors. So, and then LinkedIn also has a job board. So you can actually search and apply for jobs. You can set up notifications and they can push them directly to you. It could get to the point where maybe they're emailing you too much. So you really want to but you can really customize those notifications. And then really what you have is just a digital presence online. It's quick to share. Oftentimes we'll link them in our bios so that people can get more information for us really quickly. So to go to that question from Sharon, is it really important? And it seems like increasingly the simple answer to that is yeah, it's pretty important in terms of building network. At least it's a good tool. I think anyone can find success and happiness and professionally without it. But there's a lot of people that would swear by it and say that if it weren't for that tool, maybe that experience would have never happened. So I would consider you all to be, to get yourselves more educated, maybe click around and experiment with it to see if it's a good fit for you. And then know that, like I mentioned just a minute ago in those non-credit courses, we do a deep dive into LinkedIn and how to use it. And you'll find that LinkedIn as a company, they want you to use it. So they have great tools that you can access. You can go and watch how to set up your account and how it works. And I think everyone can decide for themselves, what's best. But in in this general geographic region, the Bay Area, LinkedIn is based out of Silicon Valley. And so therefore, I think there's an increased presence and usage in this just general geographic region, even though LinkedIn really is full on global. So I do encourage you're just going to probably make networks and connections based on that increased local usage. And also just in terms of the field. So, if you're working in technology and business, finance, those are the areas where, more recruiting and hiring goes from LinkedIn. I never even mentioned, but one really cool thing is if you do have a LinkedIn account, employers and recruiters use that to find you. So if you went to Stanford and you had a 4.0 and you worked at, Google, I'm throwing just random big names out there, but it could have been anything. And maybe you just put in your skill sets or a piece of equipment you've worked with. I had a student who was offered a job because he was familiar with some obscure Italian piece of hardware that was for a heating system or something like that. So it kind of, the world gets real small with a tool like that. And so I would say in general it's valuable. I always encourage students to think about that branding and networking bigger too. Like GitHub is a tool that can be used to really communicate your talents. Other portfolio, even I even tell students Instagram can be a professional networking tool as well. So just throwing all that out there, but I'll keep it at that. So that's LinkedIn. Yeah. Down to just a couple minutes. I wanted to see, I saw a bunch of questions fire in.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. Someone asked if that the non-credit free course was just Cabrillo students. Just want to make sure that we answered that it is open to anybody. You do have to register through the system in order to do it. So there's a little extra step if you're not a Cabrillo student, but it is open to everybody. And we encourage anyone to do that. I think the rest of these were, Corinne, thanks for posting those links in there. Do just note that the links for the career fair, so there's a different link for each one. So I think you put the STEM one in, which is great. And again, our website will have updates on who all is coming, and I'll do that probably in about 2 or 3 weeks. Last few, because we just have a couple minutes, just the launch piece, we want to make sure everyone knows about mbinterns.org. This is a great site for free advertisement. Oh, did someone have a question?
Tony mentioned a free advertisement.
There was a free advertisement?
Yep.
Oh, so that one is a great one for internships if you're looking for opportunities in our region specifically. So I encourage you to check that out. They're paid and unpaid. You'll see a variety of those. And then we mentioned our job board, and then Indeed also, besides the career guide, is a great search engine for if you're looking for employment. So I think that's it with that. I don't see any other questions coming in. I know we have about 3 minutes.
We do want to give 2 minutes for Corinne to be able to announce the raffle information.
Yes, we need to do that.
So folks, our contact information, Desha and I, is also on the last slide here. So if you have a question, say you're interested in one of those non-credit courses and you want to know more and you're not currently a Cabrillo student, you can just email me directly if you wish to, and I can help you set up and go and navigate that process, or just any questions about today's presentation or what we do.